Yes, guys, welcome back to another episode of the 3 More Points podcast. Today, we're going to tell you why Chelsea Football Club can win the league. We're going to wax lyrical about the one and only Cole Palmer. We're going to talk Conference League and last night's win against the mighty nutcases from Belgium, Ghent. They destroyed our stadium. I'm not happy about it, but Harry is here. The man who talks about boxing. He'd have been great last night in the stadium because you can throw a punch, can't you, Harry?
Yes, I can. Just about, George.
Good win for Chelsea last night, but how are you, most importantly?
I'm all right, mate. Thank you very much. I've just released my Beterbiev Biv, or Better Biev, as the Americans say. It's a breakdown of their previous performances and what they need to do to beat each other. And I'm trying to put the tactical pieces into the conversation about how so-and-so might win.
When you don't have any skin in the game, a 50-50 fight or a 50-50 game of football is something that we absolutely love to see. But obviously, on this channel, we're very much 100% sitting on the Chelsea side of the fence. And at the moment, the grass is delightful. It's green, it's luscious, it's sumptuous, it's splendid, and it is being watered game by game. And you've got new shoots and little flowers appearing here, flowers appearing there. I mean, I guess we should probably start with, as much as it's almost at the Nottingham Forest game by the time these guys are listening and watching this 3 More Points episode, we've got to start with the absolutely ridiculous show from Cole Palmer last week, haven't we? That was just...
Oh, mate, for sure.
Mental. I'm still not really over that, to be honest.
Well,
what did you think about that game?
Well, if you remember on the last podcast, we sort of finished it by saying, we know we're seeming like we're a bit excited, but our reservation was, let's see how we get on in the Brighton match, because, that's a proper test for us. That's this is a good, solid Premier League side. They've started the season well. Let's see how we get on in a game like that. And, mate, we passed with flying colours. It was exceptional. It was a great performance. And, the thing I think that we're sort of starting to see with this side early on in the season is that it's really clicking offensively. And game to game, there's different standout performers, which is really exciting. But this week, and every week, Cole Palmer is in the conversation. But this was an exceptional Cole Palmer performance. I was just, it's just how can you not be happy as a football fan watching this guy play? If you're a Chelsea fan, it's it's everything I've wanted since we've kind of moved on from the era of having so many good players in the side. When we had our Lampards, our SCNs, our Drogbas. We've been crying out for somebody that's just the kind of the flag bearer for the Chelsea attack. And we had Hazard for all those years, and he was that talismanic, exciting player to watch. We kind of had other things going around him that were good. We had some other good players, but he was always the one. And I feel in this side, even though the depth is really good, there's lots of exciting players. Cole Palmer is the jewel in the crown, as they say. And just the performance was just it was just outrageous, wasn't it? It was brilliant. And he plays with such freedom. It's just fantastic to see.
I think as much as but there was a lot of things, and I'm sure as we go through the episode today, we will bring up some of the moments that aren't quite perfect right now. I think the overall feeling amongst Chelsea fans is this is brilliant. We've not been in a position where it's back-to-back-to-back wins. I don't know how many back-to-backs we're on now, but we're on a seriously good run. We've somehow managed to reverse the curse, which is quite often international breaks. Chelsea come back and we realise we're in a foreign country and we've just lost half of our parachutes and supplies. We just seem to lose it. And it's the complete opposite. Whatever Maresca did during that last international break, I want to sprinkle a little bit more on it during this October one that we've got coming up after this weekend, because we have been so good. And I think you touched on a really good point about how every game there's somebody showing up and delivering. I think just case in point was Nkunku coming off the bench at Bournemouth. Maresca said in his press conference, we're doing better than I expected. We're getting some results we maybe don't deserve, and then other ones where we do deserve more, we don't get the result. Nkunku's showing up. Madueke's had his game. Palmer's having his game. Sancho is just he's the salt and pepper right now to just make that dish taste even better. The way that he's just adding those little moments, those flashes, it's it actually, as much as people were saying Palmer and Hazard, and I talked about it in the last video before all of the Ghent content, I said that Palmer does remind me of Hazard, but I'd actually go as far as to say maybe Sancho has that kind of element about him as well. The little jinx that he does to win the penalty the other day, and the little turns and touches to get past. Defenders don't seem to be able to cope with this front line.
Yeah, well, what I like about Sancho, the way he slotted in is, I think I remember seeing an interview with Maresca where he was if Sancho's coming to Chelsea Football Club, he has to work. Like, he has to run, he has to do his defensive work. And he's come in, and like, what I love about what Sancho's doing is he's not playing like he's the main man. He's playing like, I'm here to facilitate everyone around me. And he's just making stuff happen. He looks razor sharp in thoughts. He looks really, really fit. And obviously, he played in the Champions League final last season. So, he could have had an ego about it. He could have been like, I'm way too good to be coming to a club that isn't at the top level right now, that's playing European Conference League or whatever it's called, who isn't, challenging for the title right now. And, I think fair play to the lad. He's coming with a point to prove. And he just looks like he's absolutely on it at the minute. And I think when you've got, we've kind of done the opposite of a Galacticos, George, where like we've brought in players who potentially have the ceiling to go to that level, but they've been brought in with the kind of ethos of, you've got to prove yourself. You've got to work in our system, and you've got to be willing to do that. And so fair play to the way they've recruited these guys, because I don't see one player in there right now who isn't, pulling their weight for the team, and they've bought into the culture. And that's the key thing. And I think Sancho epitomizes that.
I think you've just given me a brand new topic that we didn't anticipate for the pod later on, but we've got to talk about and give the flowers to the Chelsea recruitment team. As much as we can slate sporting directors and we can say, what the bloody hell are you doing about this and doing about that, when they get it right, which they have on multiple levels right now, we'll talk about this a bit later, then we should. There was actually a quote, right, on the commentary for the game I was watching live against Ghent, and normally the best thing to do is mute your television, stick on a GBFC watch-along, and listen to me, because I'm quite often better than what you're hearing on the television. It's a well-known fact around the world. But the commentary actually said something that I firmly agree with wholeheartedly, and it sums up this Chelsea team right now. He said, there are no passengers. And I think that is one of the best quotes I've heard when it comes to like understanding the differences between Chelsea last year and Chelsea now. It's that last season we were literally carried by Cole Palmer. He was the flipping ticket man. He was the driver, and he was on every single seat, and it was the only thing that was going to make the train work. He was the coal, literally. See what I did there? That was a good one. But like now, everybody is paid for a first-class ticket. And everybody is putting in a shift on this train. Yeah. And I think the epitome of that for me last night was Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. I think he's a player who has obviously come from Leicester. He was the main guy, double figures in goals and assists. You could argue that he's Leicester's version of Cole Palmer to get them back to the Premier League. It's not a stupid thing to say in their context. And then he's come to Chelsea, and he's not even in the squad at the weekend. And to see his delight when he scored his first goal. And if you guys haven't seen the post-match press conference, it's one of the best interviews I've seen from a Chelsea player this season. You can just see in his responses how happy he is to be here, first of all. You can see that he's humble enough to accept that, you know what, this ain't Leicester anymore. And it's the same for Maresca. Everyone's leveled up when they've come to Chelsea. They've come to a serious team, a serious squad, and a club who, as much as we've criticised the club and the running of it for a while, we're actually flipping going somewhere. The train's actually moving. We're chugging. It's great. And I just feel genuinely like the win last night just keeps on building momentum right now. That's the key thing that I just want to keep on banging on about, because that's exactly what we're doing. And I made a point off the call off the recording, about how I think the Conference League, I actually believe the Conference League is the competition we should be in this season. I think if we were in the Europa League, it wouldn't be the same. And the Champions League. And hear me out here. It's not just for the bullshit of like, oh, we've won it all, let's just add another one we haven't won.
Yeah, I don't care about that. I hate that.
That's the icing on the cake if you really care. But like, the fact that Chelsea go into all of these matches pretty much guaranteed to win if we just show up. I mean, like, I say that now and we're probably going to lose to a team from Kazakhstan, but like, we should beat everyone. Yeah. We should. And what that does is it instills this winning philosophy that has been missing for so long. So if you're in the Europa League, look at Man United last night. Go to Portugal, surrender a 2-goal lead, can't beat Porto. Lots of European pedigree, may I add. But the point is, the Conference League is exactly what this inexperienced young Chelsea team need, because they just need to experience winning. Because when you win, you want to win again. And you want to win again. And it breeds and it builds that momentum that I've been speaking about. I've just been waffling for like 3 minutes. I might even clip that up. That's a clip and a half, that is.
Beautiful.
We're on the flipping train, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think, Harrison?
I think you're absolutely right, and I think it's like small details. Like some of these lads have never played European football before, so even just getting into the rhythm of the schedule, like in a lower pressure way, where it's like you're going to play this many different cups, and you're going to have this kind of schedule with the games. I think it also like gives the medical team a lot of information around like who recovers well, what different players need, rather than going from a season where we're playing with less games and then suddenly the next season comes and suddenly players are picking up injuries and knocks. And I don't know, I just feel like it's like a data collection tool, isn't it? This European Cup for us. It's like figuring out which it is though. It's like which players.
It's true. Like I rack it.
Yeah, which players are operating well in the system, who actually is willing to grind and actually earn their spot in the team for the Premier League games. And who's physically robust and resilient. I think it's just such a useful thing for us to have, especially like as you say with the inexperienced squad that we've got. So, and like I was wondering, George, like which players for you from the games we've seen so far, which ones, like maybe give me a top three, are putting their hands up that like should be sort of the first three subs coming on a match day right now in the Premier League games?
I mean, I'm going to say the first three that I think deserve to come on, but I wouldn't say that I'd put them on in the order of like first sub, second sub, third sub.
Yeah, because it's
I
game
think Renato Vega, Renato Vega's fantastic. And I think if Chelsea are winning by a goal or two with 20 minutes to go, absolutely I want him off the bench, whether that is with extra legs in midfield just to protect Enzo or Caicedo, or at left back. I think he's absolutely brilliant. I think the way that he just fights for the badge and fights for Chelsea and talks about Chelsea makes me believe that he's that kind of warrior that you need on the pitch who will just leave absolutely everything out there. Pedro Neto, I think, for me now, it's becoming close already. And that's the crazy thing. We spoke last week about it being like, what's the gap between poor performance and then dropped? Is it continuity, or is it like, no, straight away in? And Neto scored again last night, and he was fabulous. The defensive work rate too is just off the charts.
The balls he was playing in as well were just like, there was a couple of balls he played in, which is where you've got to score those. It was unbelievable.
Bro, that cross, the Monaco disaster. It was Badiashile and Disasi were like, hang about, like flipping heck. I think the Ferrari's coming. Oh, it's Monaco again. Like, what are they on? How have they not scored that? That could have been one of the assists of the season.
Yeah.
From Pedro Neto putting the ball in, but I think he is absolutely now knocking on that door for Noni's spot. And I think this weekend, I think we will see that continuity keep going because we keep winning. Chelsea is still winning game after game.
Yeah.
So I think you play Madueke on Sunday, but then if it is another like 5.5, 6 out of 10 performance, then Neto's there, literally ready for Liverpool at Anfield as soon as we finish the international break. So, big win again for Chelsea last night. But I want to ask you, Harry, because I want to know your opinion on this. Like, I've had so many great things to say about Enzo Maresca this week. I think even from being in America and seeing like the way that he conducted himself in a press conference and just like, I don't like saying the word aura because I think it's cheap because everybody says it, but like he does have a presence, he's got very much like this stern look on his face, but right now every player comes out in the media and they praise him. Every player who speaks to anyone in the press is saying how great he is to work under, how intelligent his footballing brain is. What would you say is the overarching reason right now why Chelsea have started this season so well? Is it all because we got a new manager?
I mean, we can only speculate, but I should just quickly say we also got to say Nkunku for that last point before we get slated in the comments. It's got to be Nkunku, Vega, and Neto. I think are the three that are really pushing right now. But to answer your question, I think that it's a mixture of things for sure. I definitely think we've got to say that Poch did some good work to finish last season, and I think that a season of Premier League football under the belts of some of those younger players was extremely helpful. He definitely blooded Cole Palmer into the league, and you can't deny that. So Maresca's coming, and that's got to have made his job a lot easier. Also, we've just mentioned the recruitment. The recruitment's been very, very good. I believe it has been done in a way where they've got players that suit what Maresca wants to do with his plan, with his style of football. So, yeah, I think it's just like it's a coming together of different ideas and just giving the guy what he actually needs. I don't like to go back to Pochettino too much, but I do remember like when we started that last season, I distinctly remember him saying he didn't have everything he needed to do what he wanted to do, to play his way. I do feel like if you're looking at it objectively, I do think Maresca's been given more pieces of his jigsaw, to use that analogy again, to actually create that picture of football that he has in his mind. So I think it's a mixture of good recruitment of players, good recruitment of manager, a guy who's obviously got a much more progressive style, but also I think he clearly understands how to manage a squad. I mean, he working under Pep is definitely a good thing, because City are a great example of having that big, strong squad and managing to keep everybody happy. And I know that players did leave over time, but there was a point where they had Sane, Mahrez, Sterling, Jesus. Who else did they have? I can't remember, but they had Bernardo Silva, all these attacking players competing for those front positions. And, it can be done. You can keep everybody happy. And actually, you have to. It's an essential part of it if you want to go and win the Premier League or any other competition. So I think that, I just think that all the pieces that you could want are in place. There's still the question of a proper world-class centre forward. But at the same time, like I said before, the development these players have shown from last year to this year, the ones that were already there, has been impressive. It's hard to exactly put your finger on it. And the players clearly did seem to enjoy Pochettino. I don't know if there's anybody in the squad who actively didn't like him. But I do think he's just got more in his favour, Maresca, at the minute. What do you think? Have I missed anything there?
No, I think you've nailed it. I also think that to see a manager so early be so adaptable, I think what we saw maybe under Poch was not necessarily. I don't want to put Pochettino down, because it's difficult sometimes to compare, because you think you know the answers, but the reality is we just don't. I think what Maresca has at his disposal is the ability to be more adaptable. I think if you look at the players that Pochettino could have used last season, and you say, right, okay, well, in order for Chelsea to win this game, you're probably going to have to tweak this and tweak that, and you might have to combat this because Brighton are going to play like this these days. You know what I mean? I think Maresca, as much as it's about the intelligence of the manager and being able to see it, I also think a lot of credit must go on the players for the way that they've received the information. It's one thing for the manager's ideas to be there, but it's also about the delivery of it. He's there on the touchline. You can see he almost doesn't blink, Enzo Maresca. If you look at him, if you catch Enzo Maresca blinking, send me a picture, please, because I've not seen it yet. The man is like a hawk, honing in on a flipping, I don't know what hawks eat, a fish, an anchovy in the shallows. He's just got his eyes everywhere, and he's constantly looking for little tweaks here and there. And I think when the players go over to him, you saw Joao Felix the other day, who I'm gonna say this now about Felix. I don't think I could ever say a player who plays so much finesse needs to be a bit more finesse. Do all the fancy stuff, mate, but do it more, do it better. Do you know what I mean? He needs to get better. But overall, I think when you look at the substitutes bench that he's got to work with right now, it's frightening. Imagine, what you start dealing with Nicholas Jackson, and then he's had enough, and he's maybe missed a couple of chances, and then you're like, oh, shit. Christopher Nkunku, who's an even better finisher than Jackson, is coming on for the last 15 minutes. If you're a Premier League defence, you're petrified of what is going to come your way. And, I think another thing which is so key, which we saw against Ghent, and even though we weren't good defensively, the defenders don't hold on to the ball anymore. How many seconds could you have counted last season with Thiago Silva? Just as much as I love the bloke, he's just there and he's just got the ball and he's got no one to pass it to, so he doesn't pass it to anybody. And before you know it, 3 minutes of the clock have gone down, Chelsea have lost possession, and we've conceded a goal on the counter-attack. And that's not happening. The goals that we're conceding, I think we should talk about that, because as great as Maresca has been, and we're just blowing teams away right now, we're like the Brazil of old or the Barcelona of old. The problem is, right, that first goal we conceded last night is actually funny. And I'm only laughing because we scored 4. So it don't really matter that much, but it does. In the context of where Chelsea can go, I think the big talking point right now about improvement has to be the defence.
In the Conference League, we're definitely seeing our weaker defensive pairing. And, look, to be fair to them, everything that is around them is also weaker. So that means that, things just are going to be more exposed. But you're right, we are conceding goals that it does trouble you. And when we come up against teams that can stop us doing what we do, that's when we're going to start having issues. If we go through a rough period where teams figure out how to defend against us, it's that annoying American defense wins championships. You know, it's like, it's true though, isn't it? Like, it actually is. It is true. Like, you're going to go through periods in the season when things aren't quite clicking. Teams have tactically set up to just try and stop you. And then, you know, we've seen in the Premier League, every team, most team, if not every team, has pace and power, if nothing else. And so, you know, when you do face a low block side, you can't break them down. They score one scrappy goal, like, you know, that horrible stat where you've had like 25 shots, you know, 15 on target, no goals, and then they've got one shot, one on target, one goal. That's a scenario you can see happening. And in the context of, I know, you know, the sort of question we want to raise on this pod is like, what are the reasons that we can and cannot potentially actually go and win the title this season? Because you know what? It's only going to take a few more wins, George, and all the pundits are going to start asking the question, aren't they? So let's get there early. Let's get an early jump on it and actually ask that question. And like, number one on the can't side of things is that our defense is not there yet, and we are lacking that like real world-class experienced defensive leader, in my opinion, that just marshals the defense, organizes things, makes sure that people are in the right positions. I wonder if Reece James is that guy. I don't know if we're actually missing it or if we're missing it through injury rather than through purchase. But I don't know, mate. It's a difficult equation because you can't make everything work all at once when you're starting out. So from like a perspective of getting the fans on side and enjoying, you know, following this team, I think that it's great that we've started with attack in a way, you know, rather than like being a horrible grind out 0-0s and all that sort of thing. But, and look, I don't want to like give Maresca like undue credit. I don't know if this is a calculated thing or if it's just the way it's working right now. But we are scoring goals. But I do really, really worry about, you know, the fact that we do seem to concede quite easy opportunities for teams. What do you think the biggest problem with it is, if you had to break it down?
I think, first of all, you made a great point there about if you're going to start to build something with the fans and actually start a new project again, which is basically what we've done. We've basically clicked reset for like the 55th time in 50 years or whatever. But like, it is absolutely the right way to start off with a few big wins. Like Chelsea, I saw a crazy stat. It's like since the 70s or something. No, it's not since the 70s. That's a lie. Since 2012. Since 2012 is the first time we've scored 4 goals, 3 matches in a row, which is fantastic. Wow. And I don't actually remember that very well. To remember Chelsea scoring like so many game after game is immense. But look, like I'm gonna actually defend the defense here because I want to separate the goalkeepers from the defense. And I think Levi Colwill has been immense this season. I would argue, actually no, I'm not even going to say it. Okay, I'm going to say it, but I've just decided that I'm wrong in the process of thinking about saying it, okay? I was going to say Colwill could be up there as in like could be a starting centre-back in the team of the season so far, but I don't think he's there yet. Cucurella, on the other hand, I'd stick him in at left-back. Like, I think he's been absolutely unbelievable. But I think that Fofana and Colwill are building something. I think if you look at the clean sheets that we had in the build-up to that Brighton game, we were starting to build clean sheet momentum as well, which the momentum is a big topic of discussion today. But like, Robert Sanchez, he got away with it in 6 Things We Learned. Normally, I'm the first one to crack the whip on this bloke and just be like, what is he doing? He's useless. But like, he somehow got away with it from my post-match review. But the reality of the situation is, both of those goals, like, Maresca's protected Sanchez in an interview saying it was Malo Gusto who gave the ball away. But like, bruv, just pass it to your own team. Do you know what I mean? Like, and in terms of, like, you say the defence might be the reason why Chelsea might not win the league. And I'm sure we'll go into the positives as to why we're going to win the league in a little bit, all right? But like, the goalkeeper, when you look at all of the teams that have won the league in any given season recent years, even flipping Leicester, Kasper Schmeichel was like his dad that year. Like, he was absolutely sensational. Chelsea, I think if Chelsea win the Premier League title, Sanchez has to become a different kind of goalkeeper. Like, I hate even saying this, but I kind of knew that there was going to be some catastrophe after those 2 good performances, because he's just not cemented himself with that level of like concentrated ability. Do you know what I mean? Like, if we talk about the good Chelsea players, like, what is it? There's a lot of things that make Cole Palmer brilliant, but one of the things is that he autonomously does the things that he knows he's good at. Whereas I don't really know what Sanchez is good at. and he does autonomously give the ball to the players wearing a different shirt to his teammates. I don't understand. So, like, I don't know. Is it a case of buy another goalkeeper? But we just bought one. We just bought another one that's coming next year. Like, it can't.
Yeah, I cannot see us going and spending big money on a keeper because it's just one of those positions where, you know, I think the recruitment team will feel like they can find the next guy. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not too often that you see like a young goalkeeper going for massive money, and then it only takes like 1 or 2 seasons, and suddenly you're like, oh, that guy's a top keeper. Do you know what I mean? Like Raya was playing in a really low division a couple of seasons ago. So, you know, I think that they will feel they can go and find the guy. So it'll be interesting to see how they maneuver that situation. I mean, the fact is that, you know, Sanchez wasn't even the number 1 last season. Petrovic was. So it's kind of a bit of and he was played out of that position. So yeah, mate, it's a difficult one. And you're right. Like, just, you do feel something's coming with Sanchez purely based on like the odds. We've seen so many mistakes. You know, if there's a good performance, you know, based on what we've seen from him, there's going to be a bad one coming. So that's kind of like why we were like, we'll praise him for doing well, but we need to see him deliver consistently. So it's a difficult one. I don't think he was solely to blame for those goals. You know, he was put in a tight position there, but yeah, mate, like, it's a difficult one. To see that happen twice in one game is not acceptable.
Twice in one half.
That same sort of mistake with the feet.
In one half.
Yeah, in one half. So yeah, it's not really good enough, is it? So and other teams will do that to us. But, you know, but at the same time, mate, like what I would say is we've shown teams the benefits of pressing us that high, but we've also shown teams if you press us that high, you're going to leave space for us and we're going to hurt you.
Exactly.
So not every team will want to do it like that, you know? But I think, like, I don't know what you think. Like, I want to talk about why we can win the league, George. I want to get into why you think we can do it. And I know I just want to call this out now. It's a premature conversation. But let's just say now, looking at what we've done so far this season and projecting into the future, what do you think the reasons are that we could go and challenge for the title this season? Look, based on what we've seen so far this season.
So I made some notes upon this one, and it's almost like, you know when you go to like relationship therapy. I've not actually ever been to relationship therapy, but they'll say to you like, write down the pros of being with her and the cons of being with her. I've kind of done the pros and cons as to why Chelsea can win the league, and I feel like you can argue each pro with a con in itself. And I'm just going to give one right now. A con as to why Chelsea can't win the league is Erling Haaland exists, but a pro is that Rodri is out for a long period of time. So Man City, I think, are the biggest conversation here, because to talk about Chelsea winning the league means that Man City don't win the league. I know that sounds like the dumbest statement I've ever made on this channel, but just deep it for a second, okay? Man City just do win the Premiership. Man City just keep on winning everything. Why? Because they've probably got the best manager in the world, and they have got a robotic striker who might actually not be human. And in a few years' time, he'll be on Mars in the Premier League up there. Like, he might be. Erling Haaland is that good. He's ridiculous. But I genuinely think that with Man City, right, look at the last 2 games even. Like, against Arsenal, Arsenal had 10 men for the second half, and City, very lucky in the end, almost, even though they dominated all of the ball to score. I just think without Rodri, there's enough quality in the Premier League right now, which works again, pro and a con. There's enough quality in the Premier League to not only give Chelsea problems, and you might not beat your Forest, you might not beat your Brentfords every time or whatever, but they also might do it against City. Because when you take Rodri out of the equation at Man City, and heaven forbid for them, Erling Haaland gets injured, blimey, I don't know what they'll be like. I genuinely think they could just completely fall off. I really do. So I think if Arsenal, with no Odegaard for a while, like, I'm not even that impressed by Arsenal, which I know, like, that's kind of a crazy statement to make because they're doing very well. They just beat Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League, great result. But like, PSG are rubbish. They're absolutely awful. They've never been good. So like, I think when you look across the board at the Premier League, I think Chelsea have got like a style where this is going to, again, like, I'm thinking about this as I say it, but like, I feel like...
Yeah, I'm gonna let you finish this point. I'm going to tell you why we can, based on this point also.
Okay. I'm kind of like flip-flopping, but in like a good way right now. I think Chelsea are more likely to outscore any team than maybe even Arsenal. So for that reason, I think Chelsea are going to have so many crazy high-scoring games this year, but because we've got Cole flipping Palmer, we're going to win more than we draw or lose because we've just got the best player in the league. So actually, that's why we can win it, because we've got Cole Palmer. And then as well as Cole Palmer, you've got some incredible side dishes, which make it Michelin star. Like, I think Cole Palmer is the main reason why Chelsea can win the Premier League.
But before we get into Cole Palmer, because let's kind of go through this point by point. You've mentioned Haaland. You've mentioned Haaland.
746 things.
Yeah, I know. Well, if you're talking about individual talismanic players in the top sides, I think ours is as good as anyone's right now. But we'll get to that in a second. You mentioned, the strength of City. You've got to obviously talk about Arsenal. You've got to talk about Liverpool. You have to mention all these teams to say, because, in the betting odds, in the pecking order, they are ahead of us. So it's kind of like, what do these guys have? What can they do? But George, can you recall when we won the league under Conte? What did we not have that everybody else had?
What did we not have that everybody else had?
Yeah. It's like a riddle, this.
I hate riddles because I'm not very good at them.
Champions League football. Champions League football. And what I want to say is, and this is quite a big statement, and anyone can feel free to give me an example of where I'm wrong here. Have you ever seen a squad this strong in the Premier League that didn't have Champions League football?
Harry, that's an outstanding point. I think you've left everyone on tenterhooks. This is a big one. And based on what I said earlier about the Conference League being kind of just like an oil in the engine, keep winning those games, and then all of a sudden the atmosphere at Stamford Bridge builds. Like, we're standing up instead of sitting down because we score so many goals. You might as well just stay standing. It's better for the joints. Do you know what I mean? Like, these little things that you just don't really think of without a bit of WD-40 or Tiger Balm. It's legit. It's a big thing to consider. I think
it is.
You've nailed
it is.
that.
And
you've really nailed that.
Yeah, and these other big sides have Champions League football. But arguably, our squad's actually got more depth than theirs does as well. So, that European competition, that you to bring it back to your point at the beginning, it being a positive thing, it is, because it's not got the pressure of winning in the Champions League. It's not got the importance. But it allows us to keep this massive squad happy, fit, sharp, and building into the system that we've got. So we're in a very unique position here that I think is overall a strength. To go back to your point about Cole Palmer, and you started making that point about him just being this brilliant player, I think that the way we're setting up at the minute, I was worried that it would kind of hinder him a little bit because he had a bit of a free roll under Pochettino where, it was kind of like Palmer does what he needs to do. And I knew with Maresca it would be a more, refined sort of conservative role. But it's also not really, is it? Like, Cole Palmer can do everything he needs to do in that position of the pitch. He's clearly flourishing right now. He looks brilliant. And he is probably the top performing player in the league right now. Haaland, as much as he's amazing, he does rely on service from other players. He relies on overall team performance because there's always those stats about Haaland. How much does Haaland touch the ball and all that stuff? And look, City are absolutely unbelievable. They're brilliant. But like you say, Rodri is out, and can we see a bit of slippage in them? I don't know. Hopefully, if you're a Chelsea fan, hopefully. But look, I think as far as like players that could pull us to a title goal, Cole Palmer is firmly in the conversation. I actually saw a conversation the other day where people were saying, "Oh, but he's so young, like he's unproven. How can he do that?" The thing is, I think his youth and his arrogance almost, his lack of over-intellectualizing situations is actually his biggest strength, what makes him so brilliant. So, chippy chips, mate, chippy chips. He's just, I can't say enough good things about him. He's in the form of his life right now. He's only in his second season in the Premier League. He's probably going to get better as the season goes on, if anything. So that's very exciting. I also want to mention, when you look at City, all the goals get channeled through Haaland, or mostly get channeled through Haaland. Like you said, it's like a singular point of failure. If he gets removed from the team, how much trouble are they in? Whereas you look at us, and whilst, before the season we were saying we're worried about not having that world-class goal scorer, the goals are actually being spread around the team. The returns are being spread around the team, which is actually more like what City were like before, wasn't it? Where, they didn't have like a number 9, like an out-and-out number 9, and there was goals coming from more different locations. Same thing with Arsenal, isn't it? Like, they've got, Havertz isn't like an out-and-out goal scorer. They get goals coming from different positions. There is something to be said for that. And we do have goals coming from multiple different sources right now, which I think is another positive and another strength.
I think also, we're scoring a lot of goals with the top scorers in the Premier League after 6 matches, 15, that's an outrageous number for a manager who's just come in, by the way. That is sensational. Like, massive props for where we are right now, as much as this is kind of like the let's extrapolate the information and submit the flipping dissertation. Like, we're winning it, guys. We're winning the flipping league. And it's because we're in the Conference League. You didn't think you were coming to this channel for that information today, did you? But you got it. We delivered it. But I do also want to say that I think that the facts are Chelsea will only get better. But I do need to throw a massive, massive point down. I need to drop the gauntlet on something, because if it was a case last season that we were unlucky with injuries, is it a case so far this season that we have been lucky that we haven't got so many injuries? Or do we now sit with a squad and the depth and quality in the squad? And I think there's one thing having squad depth, but it's two when you have squad depth quality. Are we so concerned right now about injuries? Like, for example, people will say, oh, but if you don't have Palmer, you're shit again. But like, do you believe that? Do you think it's...
No,
I don't.
No, we're not bad without him. We're just lesser. And, Nkunku's just itching. He's waiting for his opportunity. And that is the whole point of what we've been talking about with this Conference League squad. Those players all are desperate to play. And they're showing up in those games. So, like, Cole Palmer gets injured. Yeah, of course. I'm absolutely gutted and I'm worried about, what it will be like. But at the same time, Nkunku is just waiting to get his chance to go and play in that team. So, I don't think he's Cole Palmer, but also, is Nkunku a better finisher than Palmer, for example? Probably a better finisher in the box. So it just adds something a bit different to the mix. And I think it is a lesser solution, but it's a different solution that offers other scenarios where we can thrive. So I don't know, mate. I don't see it as straightforward as we lose Palmer, we're screwed. And don't forget that last season we didn't have Nkunku.
That's true.
He wasn't fit. It wasn't
so true.
Yeah, he just wasn't fit.
Imagine,
he just wasn't fit. So
that's the difference, bro.
Yeah.
Like, imagine last year we don't even have the guy. This year we've got him, but like, sorry, mate, we've got a lot of good players now. So you can't go sit on that chair over there. It's bad.
I know, and that point, and that point of improving players. Last season I got so sick of saying it, but that word inexperience, that's why we can't do anything. It's inexperience. But, one season, the Premier League is actually a fair amount of learning time. And also, like you just said, in theory, it should only get better because everyone's going to get more and more experience, including the new players that have come in. So, I don't know, mate. Like, even the players we bought, like, they have Premier League experience. Like, Sancho has Premier League experience. He also has experience of being in a really crappy environment. So, he's going to want to go in there. He's going to want to make it work. He's not... back to that point, he's not taking anything for granted. And no one seems to be taking anything for granted. So, yeah, mate, I don't think we're the finished article by any means. And I do really, really worry about our defence. And the reality is that, there's a lot of really, really strong sides in this league. But I think the fact that a team like Villa has Champions League football, that gives me confidence, if anything. Villa are a great side, but they've got to play so many more serious games than we do.
Absolutely. 100%.
And their squad's not as big as ours.
And I think we talked a
so
lot.
there are things to talk about.
There is. We've improved a lot already. We talked about how, Maresca keeps going on about, like, my job is to improve the players primarily. Like, this guy don't want to win. He does. I'm joking. But he just wants to improve everybody. That's what Enzo Maresca loves to say. But I think also, to wrap this up, we've got to discuss here, as much as it's about hoping that the players that we've already got improve on the pitch, it does seem crazy to talk about Chelsea buying more players, but I just want to say, right, based on the week we've seen in Europe with John Duran scoring a winner against Bayern Munich, and it was sensational. Samu Omarodion, a bloke who, because I couldn't pronounce his name properly, I thought he was a flipping cartoon character. He destroys Manchester United and almost gets Eric Ten Hag fired if it wasn't for Slabhead Maguire at the back getting a last-minute equaliser for them. The truth is, right, we can say what we want about when the club do stupid things. We can say that Todd Boehly doesn't even know what a formation is. But the fact of the matter is, these sporting directors and the talent identification scouts right now at Chelsea FC, they are pinpointing such good players, right? We've made brilliant summer signings. Renato Vega, Jadon Sancho, brilliant. And also the players that we wanted, that we were all like, well, not all of us, but I was like, who the bloody hell is that? Like, why are we going for Victor Osimhen?
Vega.
Yeah.
Vega. Like, who the hell is Vega?
Yeah, exactly. Like, credit where credit is due. And this is the thing, right? It's a moving process. We've spoken about the train analogy today. Like, And if we've got the right people picking people out from the crowd and say, you can get on, you can get on, you can get on, then we're only going to keep improving. And I think when you think about where rival fans would have said, Chelsea, like, don't worry about them, we're not worried about Chelsea. Look how everybody now, even in the YouTube community, people are making videos saying, I'm worried about Chelsea, I'm jealous of Chelsea, because they know, like, if this did click, it's going to rocket. And I feel like it's clicking right now, and we're about to absolutely skyrocket. I really do.
There's that thing that's been said about Chelsea for years, which is chaos and trophies, basically. And at the minute, we've got the chaos. We just need to get the trophies now. But I think, like, just to finish that point off about, that overall can we, can't we? There's two things that I want to say. Firstly, I still worry a bit about our lack of control in games. Like, it is very chaotic at the minute. We come out on the right side of it because of the firepower we have, but it's not. I don't feel comfortable always in games. I feel like we're quite vulnerable still, but that's what makes us exciting to watch. If you're a neutral fan, we're great to watch at the minute. But, it isn't fully controlled at the moment. And the other thing I wanted to say, which has now slipped my mind, was that I can't remember. I can't remember. I had 2 points I wanted to make there, but yeah.
I've got a new thing that I'm going to do that I've not even briefed you about to finish every podcast. I want to know your opinion on a completely hypothetical situation that I make up in advance, and you have to tell me 2 things that would have needed to have happened in the world for this to be true. Okay?
Okay. Before that, I remember the other point. It was just that whatever happens, I think it's the next 5 games we've got a difficult run.
Yeah.
On the other side of it's only 5 games. On the other side of that, there's a big conversation to be had, basically, one way or the other.
Well, you say that. I say we're going to win the league now. I don't care if we don't. I don't care if you think I'm an idiot, because you know what? I just don't care. All right? I don't.
But wait, what was your challenge? Your weird faux Scotsman. What was your challenge?
I've got a challenge for you, Harry. Okay. At the end of every episode now, I'm going to ask you a hypothetical situation, and you've got to tell me 2 things that would have to happen in the footballing world in order for this to be the truth. Right. The situation is that Nicholas Jackson plays for Tottenham. The year is 2028, and Tottenham Hotspur bought him for £200 million. How many trophies did Nicholas Jackson win at Chelsea?
What, in the next 4 years?
If he plays for Tottenham, who spent 200 million quid on him, what would have had to have happened in the football world?
I mean, I don't think Daniel Levy's ever going to spend 200 million on a player, so he'll have to have sold Tottenham. Some random investment group will come in, probably also under Clearlake somewhere, so that we can use them as a feeder club to shift some of our players, like we tried to do in the summer with Strasbourg. But I think Jackson will have to have been part of winning the Premier League, competing in the Champions League, and he's maybe picked up a little FA Cup somewhere along the way as well.
Well, that is a great answer.
And he scored, and he's had a 30+ goal season in there as well somewhere.
I'd hope so. If you're a £200 million plus striker and you haven't hit a 30 goal season yet, then the world has officially gone mad. Let me know your thoughts to that hypothetical one in the comments down below. And
wait, I've got one for you. Let me give you one.
Okay, fine.
All right. The year is 2028. And Kai Havertz has re-signed for Chelsea for 15 million euros. What's happened in that time?
Wait, 15 million euros?
15 million euros. What's happened for this scenario to occur?
I think that Chelsea Football Club bought him because he had a load of horses that were stuck in a stable outside Cobham. And Kai Havertz wanted to file a lawsuit against Chelsea Football Club because they said that they kidnapped his horses and locked them in a shed somewhere. So Chelsea bought him back just so that he could be close to his horses because he loves horses more than footballs. That's what happened.
And then they were like, as part of the deal, they were like, as part of the deal, they were like, we'll buy you back, but you've got to get your horses out of here, mate. They're in the way.
On that note, we are going to get our horses out, and you guys are, of course, going to go and subscribe to Harry's channel. The link is in the description. You're going to go and listen
a guy called Henry, boxing, boom.
You're going to go and listen to the podcast on the Apple Podcasts and Spotify links that are down below. Give us a 5-star rating if you can, because that helps the pod get recognized as a pod, not just a YouTube video. We've got the lot here. So yeah, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you are new, and we'll see you next week.
Havertz horses, goodbye.